Welcome back to the Flying with the Flock podcast, the easiest place to get your Eagles and other NFL related news. I am your host, Matt, and welcome to Super Bowl week, ladies and gentlemen. We finally made it after quite a few months of waiting, quite a few months of battling through all this adversity. But here we are. Your Philadelphia Eagles, my Philadelphia Eagles, hopefully your Philadelphia Eagles. Um, are in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs for Super Bowl 59. I mean, I'm already kind of bought into the Super Bowl. I got my first piece of Super Bowl merch this morning here. I got my Super Bowl 59 hat, the one with the purple and yellow logo on front. The one that Travis Kelce was wearing during the media day, which was a whole mess in and of itself. But yeah, before we get started, I just want to say thank you all for listening in, and please leave a like and subscribe down below before we get started with this episode. This episode will definitely be on the shorter side, only because I have another episode coming out on on Saturday itself of the Eagles' keys to win. Who's gonna be the X factor for the Eagles to win? Who's gonna um, who's going to be the matchups to watch during the game overall, whether that's coaching or players in and of itself. So, with all that being said, I just want to say one thing that the Eagles have been to 3 Super Bowls in the past 8 years. Let that sink in for a second. There are only a few teams that have been to the Super Bowl at least twice in the past few years. That being the 49ers, the Chiefs. If you want to go as far back as 2018, the Patriots as well. Um, Tom Brady, in of himself, has been to the Super Bowl multiple times since that last Eagles Super Bowl. So it shows you that good organizations win. And I'll go into this more in my next episode this Saturday. But I'm just really proud as an Eagles fan looking at this organization from top to bottom and how we've been able to perform and how we've been able to put out a good product on the field almost every single week for the past few years. Yes, there have been bad games that I've not enjoyed whatsoever. Any game against the Buccaneers I've hated. But at the end of the day, I've enjoyed watching the Eagles play, and obviously I'll be devastated if we lose the Super Bowl game. But that doesn't mean I can't look back at the past and still enjoy what the Eagles have been able to accomplish this year as a whole. All right. So with all that out of the way, again, I'll be going more into the Eagles versus Chiefs Super Bowl matchup this Saturday. So please uh, touch that bell icon, I guess. That'll keep you notified or something like that. I don't know. But with all that being said, keep an eye out and an ear out for that episode. That's definitely going to be fun. I'm going to go more into depth with the X's and O's and what needs to happen for the Eagles to win. The keys to victory. There's only a few, but they're very important that you do well in order to beat the Chiefs. So, with all that out of the way, let's get straight into it. So, the Saints' job is still open um, after coaches like Mike McCarthy and who was the other one that turned it down? Mike McCarthy, I believe Todd Monken turned it down at some point. Mike McCarthy and somebody else, I kind of forget, turned down the head coaching job, which means that it will most likely land with Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, as long as he chooses to go there. The Saints are in a bit of hot water themselves right now. I'm not going to get into a lot of the legal situation, though they have been covering stuff up down in New Orleans related to a church or something. So, yeah, I'm not really going to speak on that, but that doesn't give me too much hope for the organization as a whole down there in New Orleans. Uh, I feel like Kellen Moore would probably be foolish to go to the Saints. I mean, the Saints' job, yes. Oh, look, it's a semi historical team that is going to be in cap hell for the next half a decade. They're going to struggle to put a team together. I mean, the Saints are $54 million under the salary cap this offseason. Next offseason, the Saints are $53 million above the cap, but they're going to have to re-sign players, which will put them closer to the cap level. And then they have, obviously, a few years out, they have like $200 million in the cap. So, yeah, it's not going to be pretty, and obviously they're not going to have any success. They don't really have a quarterback. They have Derek Carr, who I thought would actually work out down in the Bayou, but unfortunately, that is not entirely true, at least how it's turned out. They don't really have a wide receiver number one. They have Marcus Valdes-Scantling, who's like the only good wide receiver that's healthy right now. Chris Olave, we'll see if he ever touches the field again after getting hit so many times this past season. And they don't really have a good defense, which Kellen Moore isn't known for building or helping build a good defense. So I'm definitely concerned for Kellen Moore if he takes his job. Obviously, more money, fairly impressive deal. I can't deny the fact that it's a good opportunity for him to become a head coach, but it might taint his image, especially around the league, if he takes this job. But if he does it, he might be the only one to turn around that offense. But that would leave the Eagles without an offensive coordinator, which gets me into the next part. Who would be the person next up in line for the Eagles' offensive coordinator job? And unfortunately, it would be Kevin Patullo. I believe he's currently our passing game coordinator and assistant head coach. Taking a guy that has no play calling experience whatsoever, is a Sirianni crony, definitely concerns me for this offense. Offensively, I feel like we would probably take a step back if this would be the route that we would head, and that's saying something because our passing game did not look good whatsoever, even this year. I mean, yeah, it had its moments down in Brazil, in the NFC Championship game, and we don't have to pass to win. That's not what I'm saying we have to do. Rather, we have to find somebody that has play calling experience and is competent enough to shape this offense to what it can be. I feel like Bobby Slowick wouldn't be a horrible choice to bring over, but I just don't want another Sirianni like crony, like a Brian Johnson, rising up the ranks and taking over offensive play calling responsibility, because then Sirianni will probably start to take over control once again. So that's my only concerns when it comes to Kellen Moore stepping away and going to take the head coaching deal, is that the Eagles' offensive coordinator spot is screwed. I could not tell you anybody that could actually fit in this role because everybody's gone. Anybody that's worth a hoot is probably gone and will be gone at this point. So with all that being said, that's my only major concern outside of winning the Super Bowl right now for the Eagles, and that's finding that offensive coordinator position outside of the organization. That's very key that we go outside said organization. So on Monday, I believe it was Monday morning, Myles Garrett announced that he requests a trade out of Cleveland. And honestly, I can't blame him. He has 2 years left on his deal. He's 29 years old. He's not going to get any younger. And most pass rushers don't tend to age like fine wine, like Brandon Graham. So, realistically, he's going to get traded. So, to where is the bigger question? And I have a couple of spots here. This is based off of salary cap, how I think things could play out, But with all that being said, let's just jump right into it. So, my first trade partner, and I believe this would be the most likely trade partner, unfortunately for me, would most likely be the Commanders right now. I mean, the Commanders, as of recording this, currently have $78 million in free cap space to take on Garrett's 2 year, I believe, it's like close to $40 million guaranteed contract at this point. The Browns really kicked the can down the road. They restructured his contract to make up more cap space for themselves this year, but unloading that contract uh, won't be too big of a deal. It's only $40 million guaranteed, but you have to find the right suitor that can eat that contract. The Commanders, defensively at the very least, right now, they need a little boost to get over the hump. Their defense didn't look amazing against the Eagles, so when it mattered most, a lot of those pieces that were like on 1 year deals couldn't step up and make the play when needed. Um, Garrett, and Frankie Louvu would be an interesting duo to put off on the same side if they're like lined up on the right side of the line. If you blitz them both, you can't really stop them unless you shift over the guard, which means somebody else is on. Somebody else is just on an island by themselves there. Um, Realistically, yeah, they need a boost over that hump and they need a little bit of energy. This wouldn't be a bad idea for the Commanders to look into, eat some of that contract themselves, and the only problem is they would have to give up. I believe what they're looking for is a player and some picks. And with a lot of their players being on 1 year contracts, like a Bobby Wagner, like a Zach Ertz, like an Austin Eckler, a lot of those kind of players, they're going to have to trade away somebody that actually means something. And to me, that would probably be one of their two like great defensive tackles, either Jarrett or was it Jared Allen? I believe it was Jared Allen and Deron Payne. One of them would go. I would presume it'd be Payne, and only because he's had a little bit of injury history. If they trade him, I believe a second. What are the? Hold on, let me see what Myles Garrett trade ideas. You're gonna have to put a little bit of a package together. Uh, I guess the Browns are looking for a first round pick. So one first round pick. So the Commanders would have to send Deron Payne, a first round pick, and probably a third round pick to the Browns in order to get that done. Which I believe they have all those currently. I don't believe Deron Payne contract. I don't believe that he's going to be. Yeah, so he won't be a free agent. Um, Deron Payne. How much contract is he? How much money is he owed left? Ooh, he's still owed a decent. He's still owed around 50 million. So they might have to move Jared Allen instead. Let me see. Jared Allen. Jared Allen. Oh, hold on. Oh, sorry, not Jared Allen. Who's the other Commanders defensive tackle? Why was I thinking? Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen. Let's see. Jonathan Allen. Let's see. So it would be his last year of the contract, but they would only have to pay him around less than 20 million. So I feel like they would probably move a first round pick, Jonathan Allen, and a first round pick. So that gives basically the that gives the Browns a little bit of area to trade a pick and still have a first round pick as well, or package two first rounds for another player that might be better, and get like a 1 year rental of a defensive tackle to put on that defensive line. All right, next up, I could probably see landing Myles Garrett, and probably my second favorite would be the Vikings. They are definitely up at the top of the list of having cap space at 58 million in free cap space currently. The thing that I feel like could entice the Browns of doing this is, where do the Browns sit? NFL draft 2025. Um, let's see. Order. Uh huh. Let's see. Okay, so Browns are sitting at 2. So they could take a quarterback. Or they could take a generational piece like they could replace Myles Garrett with a Abdul Carter, or with another defensive stud in Travis Hunter as well. Realistically, I could see the Browns doing this where the Vikings trade a first round pick, J.J. McCarthy, and maybe a fourth or a fifth along with them this year, uh, for for Myles Garrett. So J.J. McCarthy goes to the Browns. He's a quarterback for the Browns. The Browns draft probably a defensive player like an Abdul Carter at the second overall pick, and they're able to. And the Vikings re-sign Sam Darnold, which would answer the quarterback question they've had and are going to continue to have this offseason. Um, it would be interesting to see how much he bolsters this pretty elite defense under Brian Flores. I would definitely love and definitely keep up to date with how he's performing statistically under this defense, which plays as one unit, which would be interesting because the Browns really don't do that. They have a couple of stars here or there, but besides that, they kind of play as solo men alone. Another weird one I wanted to throw out there would be the Lions, possibly trading for Garrett. He was already rumored to be possibly traded there during the regular season. Him or Max Crosby were both rumored during the regular season to be traded to Detroit. The cap room wouldn't be too much of an issue because the Lions are currently sitting at 46.5 million in cap space, so it would be manageable. They would have to do some contract. They'd have to be doing some contract restructuring with some players, like a Amon-Ra St. Brown, like a Jared Goff, like a uh, not a Hutch because he's still on his rookie deal. Yeah, but take any of the high-profile players that signed for a lot of money. Take them. They're probably gonna work on restructuring their contract, free up some more space. If they can trade for Myles Garrett, they can cover his contract and bring in a couple more pieces to bolster this defense again. Um, if they don't gain more cap space and they just trade for Myles Garrett and they take on his contract, they won't have nearly as much to fill out their defense at different positions with free agents. Um, Garrett and Hutchinson would be very interesting uh, playing together because you can't cover both. It's almost going to be impossible. You can't cover both and both defensive tackles in the middle. And if there's a blitzing linebacker or a nickelback, you can't stop it. That's almost unstoppable. So that would be a terrifying duo for me as an Eagles fan in the NFC for us to face. Another weird one I was thinking about would most likely be the Chargers. Could probably take a swing at Myles Garrett. They have Khalil Mack, which it's looking like this would probably be his last year. So they're probably lacking that dominant defensive lineman position. So this kind of makes some sense under that standpoint. They do have one of the higher salary caps this year. They have 63 million, and any defensive player will most likely want to play under hardball to get the most out of their abilities possible. Currently, um, I could realistic. It doesn't really make sense on who they give up to get uh, Garrett. They really shouldn't be in the business of trading right now. Rather, they should be signing some younger free agents if possible, just to fill some depth pieces and get some draft capital or some draft picks. The capital they could trade to possibly acquire like a Myles Garrett or who we'll talk about in a second, a Cooper Kupp. But um, yeah, they don't have that many pieces that I feel like would entice the Browns to trade. Maybe they could trade away their first round pick. They don't tend to draft well in the first round anyway, but they need to get a couple more weapons before they can go out and take a swing for a superstar player like Myles Garrett. Now, finally, it might be cliche that I put my own team in here, but I'm going to put your Philadelphia Eagles are most likely going to call in and take a flyer on this Garrett trade thing. They have one of the lower salary caps, so it would be difficult for them to afford it currently. Uh, and they seem to be more focused on reloading through the draft under Howie Roseman, especially throughout the past few years. Roseman has a lot of connections over to the Browns organization, especially to the general manager himself, which means he might be able to bring down the asking price just a little bit, but it's still going to be a decent amount, and we're still going to have to take on Myles Garrett's contract as well. The reason why this would make a decent amount of sense is the Eagles will be lacking depth at the edge position, with BG most likely retiring and Josh Sweat most likely leaving in free agency. So I can see your Eagles taking a flyer on Myles Garrett, but do I see it happening? Probably not. He's one of the more. I believe we're tied for first in the betting odds to land Myles Garrett, but I just don't see it happening, and I don't see where we can trade away pieces. And quite frankly, I don't really want to trade away too many pieces right now. I'd rather just have us rebuild. Just keep rebuilding and keep reloading this roster. All right, so with Myles Garrett out of the way, Myles Garrett definitely overshadowed a lot of things. But the following day, Cooper Kupp revealed that the Rams had informed him that they will be shopping him around to see who'd be most interested in getting him. Now, this list isn't as long because I'm not sure how many teams would most likely take a flyer on Cooper Kupp. One team that I neglected to mention in this before we get into it, so an honorable mention would probably be the Chargers. They could trade cheaply for a number one wide receiver weapon for Justin Herbert, and I think that's everything for this team right now. So although I put the Steelers as my most likely right now, as of going back, looking at the salary cap, looking at whether they can take on his contract, what they can give the Rams, which the Rams aren't asking that much for Cooper Kupp currently, I most likely see Cooper Kupp landing with the Chargers right now. But who else did I think he was going to land with? Well, my second most likely right now would most likely be the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers are in the upper end when it comes to available salary cap. So they will be able to cover his contract for the next 2 years, which is all that's left on this contract. They have consistently been in the market for trading for a proven wide receiver since last offseason. So it kind of makes sense in my mind. They've been tied to a Brandon Ayuk. At one point, I believe they were tied to a Deebo Samuel, which I doubt will happen, but we'll see. So Cooper Kupp to the Steelers would make a lot of sense, and the Steelers are in need of an adult in that wide receiver room. Somebody that's been to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl MVP, had a triple crown. Somebody that can take a lot of pressure off the quarterback and somebody that the quarterback can just consistently rely on being able to get open and catch the ball. The Commanders will definitely be in the conversation for Cup. Again, they have one of the highest salary caps right now at $78 million, and they need weapons for Jaden Daniels any way that they can get them. My only problem with this is that Cup is an aging vet, which I said in last week's episode is probably the opposite way the Commanders should be going for weapons for Jaden Daniels. They just had they're one of the older rosters on the league. Uh, Unfortunately, I believe they have to reload and draft some weapons for Jaden Daniels. Though Cooper Kupp wouldn't be a bad 2-year rental, and they draft a wide receiver in the first round. It wouldn't be too insane to think that that would happen, but we'll just have to wait and see how that all shakes out. And then finally, a team I don't see really being talked about in the Cooper Kupp trade rumors is the Green Bay Packers. I'm surprised I haven't seen that more often. This would definitely benefit Jordan Love in a major way, with Cooper Kupp being a current proven wide receiver, and not a lot of his wide receivers have really proven themselves to be the top dog in any form of any capacity at all. The the benefit of quote unquote benefit of having no number one wide receiver ultimately bit the Packers in the ass at the end of the season. Um, this that was a storyline for a while there, especially throughout the preseason and the beginning of the season. That he doesn't have a number one wide receiver, but that doesn't matter. All these guys are good players, so they can get open. Well, all if you keep telling all these guys that they're good guys and that they're the number one guy, you're eventually gonna have to pay all of them like they're the number one guy. Realistically, uh, Cooper Kupp to the Packers makes way too much sense in my mind. Jordan Love and Cooper Kupp could ball out in my mind, and I could honestly say without a doubt that that would be a big addition probably for this Packers team in this offseason. But I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens on the Cooper Kupp front of trades. So it is nice to actually have some trade stuff, some offseason stuff start to kick off and start to be during the Super Bowl week, which is kind of dry for me, to be honest, because everybody made their picks last week. Nobody's really doing anything football-wise this week. Everybody's just waiting for the Super Bowl. So, realistically, yeah, it's nice to have a little prelude, a little intro to the offseason that will definitely be a fun offseason with Myles Garrett asking for a trade, Cooper Kupp getting shopped around, and a player that I believe will most likely get traded being Max Crosby. I could definitely see Max Crosby also announcing at some point that he's ultimately going to get traded, though it would bring in some capital for the Raiders to draft some solid players. So it wouldn't be out of the question for Max Crosby to go. So that's just my theory right now. I could be completely wrong, but as we go along in this offseason, I'll definitely keep my ear to the ground on what the Max Crosby situation would be. So during this week, obviously the Super Bowl media day was Monday, this past Monday, and a lot of rumors started to come out. One rumor, and it's not confirmed, but I kind of could see this, is the Eagles will face the Rams in 2026 in Melbourne, Australia. That would be a 16-hour or 16 to 20-hour flight, something like that, for the Eagles to get all the way to Melbourne. And let's just say I'm not exactly thrilled to be playing down in Australia, though I do see why they keep picking the Eagles to break in a lot of these other countries to football. I will say that the Eagles fans are the most like other fans around the world. Not like these sissies like the Kansas City Chiefs. not like these sissies down at Washington or in New York or in Dallas. Not like these sissies in New England. Uh, Eagles and Bills both those fan bases would be the closest to being like European fan bases, Australian fan bases, South American fan bases. So it's easy to see why the NFL keeps picking the Eagles, where we have a lot of big names. We also have probably, as of right now, the greatest Australian player in American football of all time. So it makes sense that they would send us there to promote NFL football. So it'll definitely be interesting. I'm not exactly excited for it. I mean, we just went over this long song and dance throughout the off season with the Green Bay Packers. Um, I hope that this is the week before our bye week. That's all I'm saying is we should not be playing after we play in Australia. That's not fair at all, especially to us and to the Rams as well. Both teams need a bye week after that. So hopefully this is closer to the middle or back end of the season itself. And the Rams are hosting, so they're losing a home game. We're not losing a home game like we did down in Brazil, though I kind of didn't mind because we're at the Super Bowl anyway, so it really didn't impact it that much. Finally, one last more bigger topic that I've seen going around recently around NFL headlines would be the NFL looking to introduce a uh, kind of like, so I play tennis, me personally, and I watch tennis, and they have a ball hawk system, they call it. And the ball hawk uh, kind of locates where the ball landed. So you could tell whether the ball's in or the ball's out or whether it's right on the line. So there's been rumors that have picked up a lot of steam, especially over the past few days, especially after the Bills' loss, that the NFL is looking into a system which could help indicate whether the ball crossed the obviously the goal line and also past the first down marker as well, which would take out a lot of the human error of the sport itself. Um, I'm not. I think I'm in favor of this. I wouldn't exactly mind having a system that could double check the refs themselves. Obviously, we should probably still have the refs, but then have this system to be like, hey, y'all need to correct that because they got that first down according to the chip in the ball, which will definitely be interesting to see how they put the chip in the ball itself and how long those balls will last. Maybe only a drive. I know regular footballs anyway in an NFL game only last like maybe a full drive or two until they have to be switched out. But yeah, I would definitely like to see the technology behind how they keep that processing chip inside of it safe from cracking, from breaking, from making a mess with inside the football itself. So I believe that's it for this episode. Again, sorry for the shorter episode. Obviously, I have another short, like maybe 20-minute, half an hour episode coming out on Saturday of the Eagles' keys to win this Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, with all that being said, and with my Super Bowl hat being here, it's Super Bowl time, baby. And obviously, I'll be able to address y'all more about the Super Bowl this coming weekend. So, with all that being said, hope you all have a good day. And remember, go Birds.